Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today we're going on a trip, of sorts, to the Bluebell Railway. The beautiful Bluebell Railway is one of Britain's most important heritage railways. It's 11 miles long and it's run by the Bluebell Preservation Society, who began operations all the way back in 1960 with the first ever standard gauge preserved steam railway in the world. Today it has a vast collection of locomotives at over 30, second only to the National Railway Museum's collection in numbers. And yet, I've never been to the Bluebell Railway. It's quite a long way from me, right down south. I never really go that way, so I've never visited the Bluebell Railway, even though it's one of the UK's most significant heritage railways. So I thought today I would go without leaving this room. I'm going to use my engines to do it, my models. So I'm going to be running lots of Bluebell Railway locomotives, talking about them, having a really close look at them and enjoying them in that way. So this video is for everybody around the world who has never been to the Bluebell Railway, either because they live too far away or because they've just never had the time. Compared with some people, obviously I'm not that far away. I live in England after all, so one day I will get there, but today I think this is going to be the next best thing. It's not going to be any comparison, of course. The real thing is going to be miles better, isn't it? But yeah, this is something I can do today, right now. So I'm going to be showing you just a few of the Bluebell's locomotives today that I have in the collection. As I said a moment ago, there's over 30, so I could probably make this video 5 times over, something like that. There is that many locomotives owned by the Bluebell. But today I'm just going to show you 6, so this is going to be volume 1, I suppose. If you enjoy this video, comment down below and let me know. Possibly I could make more in the future. They're mostly tank engines today, and I've started from the beginning, so I'm looking at the early locomotives today. Like I say, in future videos, I could look at some of the later ones. But yeah, mostly tank engines then, not exclusively. Mostly pre-grouping, I think possibly exclusively, but all in different liveries to keep things interesting. So the first loco I'm looking at today is this. It's a locomotive from the LBSC and it is the Terrier. Now the model I've got here is Box Hill, and this is here as a substitute for the actual Terriers that the Bluebell have. They have 2 of them. One of them is Stepney and the other one is Fenchurch, I think it is. So like I say, this is Box Hill. It's not one of those, but of course it looks just like them. Also known as the LBSC Class A1, the Terriers were a class of small passenger locomotives first introduced in 1872 to the design of William Stroudley. The distinctive barking sound produced by the exhaust beat gave them their affectionate nicknames of the Terriers. Now, even though the Terriers were getting out of date by the time grouping of 1923 occurred, the class remained in service under the Southern Railway, and indeed many Terriers even survived well into the final years of steam, with their final withdrawal not taking place until 1964. The Bluebell examples, Stepney and Fenchurch, built in 1875 and 1872 respectively, are in varying conditions. Stepney, I believe, is currently out of service, just on static display, but as far as I know, Fenchurch is in running order, having recently been overhauled. Of 50 produced in total, a healthy 10 Terriers remain under preservation, while sadly the remainder were scrapped. So in terms of rolling stock, because this is a heritage railway video and not a video about these models back in the early days, I've decided to try and pick rolling stock and coaches and such that you'd see at a preserved railway, with a bit of a southern twist to it, because this is of course the Bluebell, which is down south. So yeah, I've got some slightly more modern sort of BR era coaches being hauled by the Terrier, just 3 of them, because I think that's the kind of thing you'd see at a heritage railway. So that means not much freight today, although I might do a bit of freight later on because you do see that from time to time at preserved railways. So yeah, the Terrier, this is the Dapol Terrier, which is not one I run dreadfully often because, well, for a long time it was out of action, it stopped working, and I didn't investigate for a long time. But then one day I decided I don't want to live with this anymore, I want it to work, so I took it apart and fixed the issue, and yeah, it's now a runner. So I thought I'd run this in the improved engine green, of course. At least one of the Bluebell's Terriers has been painted in this livery. I don't know if it is at the moment or not, but they certainly have been at certain points in time. So yeah, there you have it, the Terrier. Not my favourite model in the world. I think the Hornby Terriers generally, well, I don't know if they look better, but they certainly give me a lot less jip in model form. So there you have it, the first of the Bluebell locos. Sort of. Obviously, Box Hill is part of the National Collection, but you know what I mean. Anyway, let's move on then and talk about a loco whose real-life counterpart very much is a part of the Bluebell. The next locomotive, in real life at least, was a bit of a sequel to the Terrier. It was built by the SECR, and it is this. It's known as the SECR P-Class. And the Bluebell Railway actually have 3 of these in varying conditions. One of them is actually the locomotive that this model depicts. It's Bluebell in their custom Bluebell livery. This is a take on the original SECR livery, except it's blue instead of green, hence Bluebell, I guess. So the SECR P-Class was designed by Harry Wainwright, and it was introduced in 1909. Unfortunately though, although this was supposed to be kind of a copy of the Terrier, the SECR tried to economise on certain aspects of the design, and this would be their downfall. As a result, they were quite underpowered, and they produced less than 3/4 of the tractive effort of the Terriers. As a result, the P-Class that was intended for lightweight passenger trains and that sort of thing, it ended up doing shunting and other light duties. Also, only 8 examples were produced, in stark contrast with the Terriers, of which 50 odd were built. The class became part of the Southern Railway from 1923 though, and withdrawals didn't take place until 1955. This example, number 323, is one of the preserved examples, and the blue livery that the Bluebell Railway gave it dates back to 2011 following an overhaul that it had back then. Like I say, the livery is based on the SECR's Edwardian lined green livery, but they've just given it that little tweak to make it blue to match with the Bluebell name. It's not something they've done very often. A lot of their locos are in quite historically accurate liveries, but not the P-Class, which I kind of like. Almost be quite interesting to see them do this with a few other locos. So I would say that I ran the Terrier a little bit too fast for this. And I say that because in real life, heritage railways are quite heavily restricted in terms of speed. They can't go that fast. You can't run a steam locomotive at mainline speeds at, as far as I know, any of the heritage railways. But I'll be honest with you, the Dapol Terrier is quite unreliable, so I ran it that fast so that it would actually get over the points. The P-Class though is a different story entirely. This is one of the best running tank engines I've got, and she's perfectly reliable even over the points at any speeds. So I've been able to run her at a much more realistic speed for a heritage railway, I would say. Which is ironic, isn't it? Because in real life the Terriers were miles better than the P-Class. The P-Class never quite got up to the same standard as the Terrier did. But in model form, at least with Hatton's and Acura scale versus Dapol, very much the opposite was true. I would say it is the P-Class that is by far the better runner, which is funny, isn't it? It's quite interesting. So anyway, I've been able to run this at a more sensible speed, and yeah, this looks more like what you could expect to see at a heritage railway. So the beautiful P-Class in the Bluebell livery, which is a gorgeous livery. Again, I would love to see other locos in this livery. Imagine some of the locos coming up later in this video in this livery and you'll see what I mean. But anyway, let's move on. Let me show you what loco's coming up next. Up next then, I'm going to show you the only tender loco in today's video, and it's a very, very significant loco for the Bluebell Railway. So the engine is this. It is once again another LBSC locomotive, this time the Class H2. And the crazy thing is, of course, all of these H2s in real life were scrapped. None of them were saved. So the big question is, how on earth did the Bluebell Railway have one? Well, the answer is they've spent a lot of years and a lot of money creating a new one from scratch, and not so long ago it entered Steam, which is absolutely amazing. So the loco I've got here, this is not Beachy Head, this is not the rebuild, this is one of the original locos, but of course the one the Bluebell has is brand new, one of the newest steam locomotives in the country. Speaking of the real thing though, the H2 was introduced to the LBSC all the way back in 1911, and it was based on the previous Class H1 as designed by D.E. Marsh. Like the H1, very few H2s were built, only 6 in total. That's even less than the P-Class. The class was used to haul heavy Pullman services on various express routes, mainly London to Brighton, etc. Even though far newer Southern designs outperformed the H1s and H2s in future years, the H2 still found work on boat trains and other lighter services until the very end of the 1950s, the final withdrawal not taking place until as late as 1958. Sadly though, no original example was preserved and all of them were cut up and scrapped. So like I say, the Bluebell's H2 Beachy Head is a reconstruction of the original H2 design, and it was recently completed after being announced all the way back in the year 2000. So thanks to the efforts of the Bluebell Railway, this lost class of steam locomotive can be enjoyed once more. It's been brought back from the dead, which is astonishing. It's the most amazing gift any preserved railway society can give us, I think. So obviously, as a very new loco, the real H2 Beachy Head hasn't done that much running yet in real life. But I did find a photo of the new H2 rebuild with what looks like 3 Pullman coaches. So I thought, I can do that. So a very grand looking train, brand new locomotive, hauling 3 Pullmans. I don't know if that was a publicly available thing or not. I don't know if anybody was there who's watching this video, but that must have been incredible. A really wonderful thing to witness. So I think this loco is probably the most amazing Bluebell Railway locomotive, because for all of those years this class was completely lost. Nobody alive was ever going to see one of these run again, and through sheer hard work and a whole lot of time and money, that has been turned around, and now there is an H2 which you can go and see running right now today, which is crazy. So there you have it. Not Beachy Head. I would love to get a Bachmann model of Beachy Head, but this isn't it. And incidentally, I think the real thing is painted into a BR black, which looks very smart, but no doubt over the years its livery will change. But there you have it, the H2, the only tender loco in today's video. Let's move on and I'll show you what's next. Back to tank engines then, and the next one is yet another LBSC loco. I should call this video an LBSC running session, shouldn't I? But it's quite a bit different from the other locos that we've looked at so far. It is this, it's the LBSC Class E4 tank engine, which has an unusual 062 wheel configuration. So as you can see, the model I've got here is number 579, but the one the Bluebell has is number 473, so again this is another substitute, but it looks very, very similar. The Bluebell's E4 is not in this livery, I believe it's in a later livery, but this is what these locomotives would have looked like when they were brand new, which is interesting. Anyway, the LBSC E4 was introduced to the railway in 1897, this time to the design of Robert Billington. At the time, the E4 was considered an extremely powerful locomotive, and it successfully hauled both passenger and freight trains for many, many years to come. As a result of the E4's success, 75 were built over 6 years or so, which is quite a few, and the entire class survived into Southern Railway ownership from 1923. They were slightly modified and improved over time to have smaller cylinders to increase their power, but ultimately that design remained intact for a lot of years. And amazingly, most of the class even survived right up until the end of steam, when eventually diesels took over. This is the ultimate testament to their reliable design. The E4s then were withdrawn between 1958 and 1964, but only one of them was preserved, and of course that belongs to the Bluebell, so a unique locomotive at the Bluebell now. So it's number 32475. She was saved from scrap as one of the final members of the class in service, and she was restored to working order over the following years. Today though, she's not running at the moment, she's on static display, but she is awaiting an overhaul. So the other thing I've noticed about the Bluebell Railway is that in quite a few photos, these tiny little 4 and 6 wheel coaches pop up. And if they've got those running there, then that is awesome for so many reasons. I mean, first of all, it's not something you see every day. It's quite unusual to see 4 and 6 wheel coaches in service. But also, obviously, they've got so many pre-grouping locomotives, so many early locos at the Bluebell. It's really fitting that they've got some early coaches to go with them, so that's good. Also, on quieter days, these smaller coaches obviously have less capacity, so it could be more economical for them to haul these coaches as well. So for the E4, I've hooked up some 4 and 6 wheel coaches. I did see a photo with what looked like a Southern liveried 6-wheeler in front of some smaller 4-wheel coaches, not quite sure of the livery of those. So very, very roughly, this might be a recreation of that. But yeah, beautiful locomotive. This is one in particular that I would love to go and see in real life. This and the H-Class as well, which I'm not featuring today, but yeah, that's another favourite of mine. So that's it, the E4, an absolutely beautiful loco, and yet another LBSC one. They seem to have quite a few of those. Let's move away from the LBSC for a little while then, just for the sake of variety, and also because I've run out of those now. We're going to get a tank engine in next from the LSWR, and it's possibly the strangest tank engine you'll ever see. It is this, it's the Adams Radial tank, which has a 442 wheel configuration, which is another Atlantic, I suppose, but it's an Atlantic in tank engine form. That's quite odd. And the one the Bluebell Railway has is this exact one. It's the EKR number 5. So I decided to choose this one for today's video. It's an exact match, so why not? So the Adams Radial tank, as the name suggests, was designed by William Adams, and they were first built in 1882, so quite early, really. And as I say, they sported the unusual 442 wheel configuration. They were also known as the 415 class, and the engines were used to haul suburban passenger services on the LSWR and the Southern Railway, and later on even under British Railways, although most of the class were scrapped shortly after the First World War. 71 were produced in total between 1882 and 1885, but only a small few of these passed into Southern Railway ownership. Most of them were gone before 1930, having been replaced by more modern designs, the Drummond M7 being a key one. Only one of this class survives in preservation though, and it is this example, number 5 of course, housed at the Bluebell Railway, and number 30583, that's the BR number, it hasn't been in operation since 1990, but apparently they are looking at this loco now to see about getting it overhauled. So I was always a bit sad about this one in real life, because more or less for my entire life, this has been out of service and mostly I think just sat in a shed. Which is a shame because it's such a cool tank engine. There are no other tank engines quite like this. Atlantic wheel configuration, outstanding livery, very old, proper Victorian. Yeah, it's really good news that they're looking at potentially overhauling this in the future, because I think if this was on the roster, if I could go and see this run and possibly even ride behind it, that would definitely make me go to the Bluebell. I think I'd be over there like a shot. Plus, there'd be so much else I could see as well. But yeah, Adams Radial tank, this is the Oxford Rail one. Hornby also produced an Adams Radial tank as well. Difficult to say which was better. I think for me, Hornby's, because there have been a lot of mechanical issues with this Oxford model. In fact, I think this one's running a cordless motor that I put in there instead of the original motor, which was just underpowered and wouldn't work right. But as you can see, it's running okay now. So Oxford, Adams Radial tank. The only way you can see one of these run at the moment is through these models, so I guess there you go. I've got one thing that the Bluebell can't offer at the moment, but hopefully one day that will change. Alright, let's move on. Got enough time for one more loco. One more engine to look at then. It's another tank engine, I think the smallest of today's tank engines, and it is this, again from the LSWR. This time it's the Class B4. Now the model I've got here is called Jersey. The Bluebell's B4 is not Jersey, but I have seen photos of it painted up in a very, very similar livery, which is why I've chosen this one and not Cairn or one of the others that I've got. So the LSWR B4 was another design by William Adams, and these were introduced to the railway a little bit after the Adams radial tank in 1891. They were relatively small in number, only 25 of these were built in total this time, and they were used for station piloting and also dock shunting, so generally light duties requiring a small and nimble locomotive. Notable features of the design include an internal coal bunker, not that usual, I suppose, Stephenson's valve gear hidden between the frames in spite of outside cylinders, and an absolutely tiny wheelbase to better equip them for the tight radius curves found on docks, for example. Following the grouping of 1923, the Southern Railway continued to use the class on various docks and goods yards, and retirement of the class wouldn't begin until nationalisation in 1948. The final withdrawals took place in 1963, and today only 2 examples remain under preservation. These are named Normandy and Granville, and it is Normandy, don't think I mentioned the name before, that is housed at the Bluebell Railway, and currently Normandy is under overhaul, I believe. And so, as promised, I have put a bit of a freight train together with a bit of a Southern Railway theme as well. Now, I don't know if this is something they do at the Bluebell, because obviously I've never been to see it, but at one of my more local heritage railways they do it. The Great Central do it. I think just to show people a goods train going past, possibly as a training exercise for budding drivers or firemen or probably brakemen, that kind of thing. So yeah, it does happen from time to time on heritage railways, not really for a purpose. I don't know if they ever do it to actually carry goods or not. Maybe if they're constructing something on their own railway, you might see it. But I think more or less it's just for fun or training. So yeah, I think it's fine to run a bit of a freight train in this video. Mostly, obviously, these heritage railways do passenger trains, which is fine. But I think the B4 is kind of more cut out for freight. Although, yeah, no doubt, it could probably haul a good couple of passenger coaches without any problems at all. But there we have it. Yeah, beautiful B4 running quite nicely. I did have to strip the base keeper off this and clean the pickups and the wheels before it would work right. Have had reliability issues with these in the past, but nothing too major. And as you can see, she's going quite happily now. So there you have it, a little bit of a freight train to finish off with. So there you have it then, 6 locomotives as seen on the Bluebell Railway. But like I said at the start, the Bluebell owns a huge, enormous number of steam locomotives, plus some diesels as well. And so I thought to finish off, I would go over some of the other locos they have in their collection, and possibly you could use this list to let me know what you'd like to see in a sequel, if indeed you'd like to see a sequel. So here are just some of the options that I had for today's video. The Bluebell Railway also has an SECR C-Class, theirs is number 592. They've also got the SECR H-Class, theirs is number 263. They've got, I think, a couple of Hall class locos, at least one. They've got Whitewick Hall, I think it is. Not sure about the other, if there is another. They've got a Duke Dog class. I love this class. This was a contender for the video. Theirs is Earl of Berkeley, though. They've got Schools class, Stowe. Love the Schools class as well. That's a real classic. They've got an S15. Theirs is number 847. I don't have that one, but yeah, classic Southern Railway locomotive there. Speaking of classic Southern locomotives, they've got a couple of light Pacifics. So that's the Battle of Britain or the West Country class. That's Blackmore Vale and Sir Archibald Sinclair. I think if I owned either of those exact models, I would have probably put those into this video, but I don't. Something a bit more modern, they've got a standard class 5. Theirs even has a name, it's Camelot, which is quite interesting. They've also got a standard class 4, the 460 tender version. Theirs is number 75027. And another standard they have is the BR Standard Class 2. So they've got all these early locos, but they've got some of the most modern British steam locos in their collection as well. Their 2MT is 78059. They've also got the 9F, which is a tremendously iconic locomotive, isn't it? 92240. Love that loco, so that was another contender. And then in terms of other locos, they've got a Class 73, that's E6040, don't have that one, but Dapol have produced a Class 73. And of course they also have an SECR01, which doesn't exist in model form yet, but of course Rapido are producing one due to release relatively soon. So as you can see, loads and loads of choice for this video. What did you think about my choices? Did I make the right choices? Or did I miss any tricks by not choosing some of the latter locos that I've just read out? Again, if you'd like to see a sequel to this, if you've enjoyed it, comment down below and let me know. But for now, I will leave it there. I've still not been to the Bluebell Railway, and that's something I think I will have to change. Is it as good as people say? Is it as good as it looks? I think it probably is. So yeah, one day, I pledge, I will get down there. But for now, that's my contribution to the Bluebell Railway. Go and give it a visit if you can do. I've heard reliably that it's excellent. But yeah, for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, folks.